very good evening and welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Tracy Shilshi and today we're raising the quota debate, not the one that we're seeing on the polling fields of Bihar, but what the Supreme Court observed recently. On Tuesday, the Apex Court directed the central government and all states to scrap the reservation for higher education institutions, making an example of super specialty medical courses. It urged states to keep admissions, quote-unquote, unreserved, open and free, following complaints that some states were allowing only domiciled MBBS doctors to appear for the entrance exams. Well, coming against the backdrop of how political parties are using the quota word to polarize voters in the ongoing Bihar Assembly elections, the big question is, are merit and affirmative action mutually exclusive? Joining us on the debate this evening, we have in studio John Dayal, who is writer and social activist with us. We also have assistant editor with the Economic Times, Urmi Goswami as well. And we also have Dalit leader Chandra Bhan Prasad, in fact, joining us from the capital as well. Mr. Prasad, if I could come to you first, what is your assessment of what the Supreme Court has said? This is, of course, not the first time it has come up with such a directive. What are your impressions?
Let me create a context. Just 5 months back, in district Pratapgarh of Uttar Pradesh, 2 Dalit brothers, sons of a worker, cracked IIT JEE in general category, open category. In the evening, their house was stoned by villagers. In Ratlam district of Madhya Pradesh, a Dalit groom tried riding a horse in his wedding. He was stoned. He had to wear helmet. Even today, we have Drodacharya award. What was Drodacharya? Why had he to cut Eklavya's thumb? Was it only to promote Arjuna? This is the context we should try to understand the question of Dalits. Why it is so that every Dalit who enters a medical college or an engineering college or a science stream of education scores higher in written marks but gets lower in practical. Dalits get higher in external assessment, get lower marks in internal assessment. That shows that there are Drodacharyas in every medical college, in every medical college classroom. That's how we have to understand merit. The JNU professor Dr. Rajesh Paswan says, so far none has defined what merit is. Is it sure that a first classer will become a good doctor also? This question we have to understand in this context.
All right. That's interesting that you're bringing that out, just at the beginning of it, because that's one of the things we would like to discuss, the realities, of course, of the country still, but with the Supreme Court saying that, going ahead with this directive, unreserved, open and free admissions is actually for national interest. Mr. Dayal, if I could get your opinion there.
Let me carry on in the way in the Chandra Bhan Prasad has said, in the context of the photographs of chief ministers and others in advertising, the Supreme Court put a ban on them. In challenging the ban, I think it was yesterday, the government of India called the ban irrational. So Supreme Court judgments are sometimes irrational. And I would like to bracket this also as an irrational judgment. Because as Chandra Bhan says, what is merit? And the implication that a Dalit, a OBC, a Muslim would necessarily not be of merit if he makes it in a quota. What is the evidence? And would the Supreme Court bench of these 2 gentlemen, and their surnames are, I know the surnames, would they say that people who go to, for instance, a university, private university in Karnataka, because their parents can afford that, or who send third-rate children to Mongolia, to Japan, to Romania to get medical degrees. There the reservation is about money. If you have the money, you go. Would they be any more meritorious? Would I submit myself to surgery at the hands of a doctor who has been trained in this private school, paying a hefty capitation fee. So this is a complicated thing. I think there's enough empirical data now to show that the basic difference in percentiles between meritorious reserved candidates and meritorious general candidates is of the order of 1 or 2%. That is at the highest level of the thing. It is, of course, however, true that because the reservation, say, for instance, in a postgraduate medical degree on pediatrics, and if there are only 2 seats, and if 1 is reserved, well, such is, that is bad luck.
Yes.
But that is also bad luck for a whole lot of meritorious Dalit students, for whom also there's only 1 reservation then. So it cuts across both ways. But I would say 2 things. A, I think there is something rotten in the whole caste system where people can't countenance the rise of the former untouchables or the rise of the people on the margins. And this sort of tarnishes or colors the worldview. That is number 2. And from thence the premise that if you are not upper caste, if you're not well off, if you're not wearing a suit, you have no brains. The second, of course, is a larger situation where there still remains a whole lot of limitations in growth. Education is not available to many areas, not just Dalits, tribals, vast stretches, hundreds of kilometers of land and no school, no coaching, no proper thing. And lastly, how do you test merit? If upper caste people from the cities were to be tested on the, let us say, the sowing cycle of rice, they would all flunk because they are not used to it. And if you take a village boy and are quizzing him on Shakespeare, poor chap can't do it, you know. I wouldn't be able to pass an examination in many other things. On the other hand, I do have expertise in my area of life experience. So this is a thing. I think till a such time that India can guarantee an equal playing field, you will necessarily have to pick up some people, make it an equal playing field. And that would imply putting in 2 bricks or a stool or a ladder so they can come equal.
And Urmi, talking about that equal playing field, that's of course a distant dream, considering that the fact that politics also depends so much on, you know, caste, on you know, as we're seeing, of course, even quota politics for that matter.
Well, I agree with you that the issue of reservation is more about electoral politics than anything else. And I'm very happy that Mr. Dayal's raised this issue of, you know, equal, a level playing field, and Mr. Chandra Bhan on you know, the kind of social inequities that exist. So I want to take you back to the beginning, and that is how the how this reservation system really works. So for the first 16 years of a child's life, there is no reservation. You go through school, you go through these inequities in society. If you are in a backward place, or if you're not in a city, then your caste matters, or maybe even in a city your caste matters. Then you're 17 years old, you're ready to go to college, and that's the first time that you encounter this provision, this constitutional provision for reservation. But this comes at a time, one is in a country where out of 100 students who make it through the, become eligible to go to higher education, which is basically finish class 12, about 15 for every 100 students go for higher education. So already that's a very small pie. Even if I do reservation within that, it's just such a small pie. A large number of kids have already gone through 16 years of received history, of received practices of difference, of psychological issues and social inequities. So what is, we are talking about reservation, is like at the end of your cycle. The real issue really is to look at schools, and that is where we should start. You want to talk about a level playing field? Our focus should be on ensuring that every kid receives quality education, that we make our schools better, that we invest in our teachers. We invest in all schools, not just private schools. We invest in schools that need the most, because deprivations are not just about social, imagined, you know, when I mean imagine, I'm not saying that the inequities are imagined, but how they're reinforced to what you refer to, political reinforcements. They're about resource poor. The people who are deprived socially are also, you will see more often than not, economically deprived. So how do you address deprivation? You address and we still believe in this country and that education is that, you know, that silver bullet. You
Yes.
can change your life through education. That is where we should be focusing. It is when you find more and more kids actually making it through to the end of the school, not dropping out, actually learning in school and being able to compete. That is when, even if you have reservations or not have reservations, will it make a difference? Right now, just a small sliver of these people, of people for whom there is reservation, actually come to the place where they can make the most of that benefit. So what are we talking about? You want to address social inequalities, you want to have a level playing field, let's start where it matters. Let's start with education. And I think that is where our focus should be. That is where we should be talking about.
All right. If I could come to you, Mr. Prasad, you know, you of course listening to, the arguments been put forth here. Another issue, of course, of reservation, especially when it comes to this particular case, is, you know, on a petition that was filed by some MBBS doctors. They complained about eligibility criteria for admissions, you know, especially in this domicile category in particular states. You know, forget about, lower caste, upper caste, or, SC, STs, Dalits, OBCs, forget that. But this particular reservation as well, are you in favor of that?
Let me start with examples. This Supreme Court observation is also against me because due to quota, I could enter higher education. I could enter Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi, due to quota. Today, many big professors quote my works, including Nobel Prize winners. I know a dozen Dalit doctors, product of IIMS, Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, who are doing so well in the US. Rahul Dipankar, Dr. Bhairava, Dr. Mesram in John Hopkins University. How come these quota product doctors are doing so well in the US and England, and on what basis somebody doubts their genius? There is no linkage. Nobody has so far established that higher the marks, greater your intelligence. There is no linkage between marks and intelligence. A third classer may prove to be a very good doctor. A first classer may prove to be a very average doctor. So this present system of education that has been laid down and the state has given that facility to untouchable people should continue, and Indian society should celebrate Dalit MBBS who do their MS, who do their MD, who do PhDs in medical sciences, because this community has been oppressed so far, continues to be oppressed even today. Dalits are beaten for sporting sunglasses. Dalits are beaten for wearing jeans and t-shirts. Even with those kinds of systems of oppression, some Dalits are rising. Society should celebrate them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. In fact, we're also joined by Dr. Saroj Rath. Is it? Is yes. Dr. Saroj Rath? Yes. Vice President with Youth for Equality, joining us, in fact, in studio. So far, you know, the debate, of course, has been around the Supreme Court directive that came on yesterday on reservation, that it needs to be free, open, unreserved. How is the Youth for Equality looking at that?
Well, Youth for Equality stance is very clear, and there is lots of impediment from the side of court only. What the discussion Mr. Bhan was saying is self-contradictory. He is saying that some people are raising to the ladder of excellence once they attain to some positions. If they are really deserving, they can get it to those positions even without reservations.
Without reservations.
That is
but how do they reach that point?
That is what I am saying.
Yes.
That, you know, you cannot compare mango with the apple, that is there. So there is the need to empower them at the base level. You are empowering that at the end level. That is where when you are super specialty subject, there is, and for let me clear that there is no directive from the court this time. There is a technicality here that the original directive, the executive order was not challenged. This gentleman, the MBBS aspirant, has challenged the official order of the institutions. So that is where the court didn't say anything against this, that didn't squash the executive order, because the executive order was not challenged.
Yes.
That challenge was coming on 4th of November, when the Tamil Nadu government's, matter is coming into the Supreme Court. Before that also, if we see, Indira Sahani clearly said there are certain areas like pilot. Are we debate on the issues that whether a pilot should be qualified or for a Dalit or a Brahmin or a Muslim or from any other background? Because it depends on the expertise. It is the expertise which matter, not the background of the people and how, whether the society should get empowered or not. You are, you have to be at parity on the world level. In medical science, we have less and less number of, innovations in India. Because it is not that we are giving reservations and that is why it is in dysfunctional state. Because as in institutions, we are not able to, empower our own people, empower our own institutions. It is encrypted by the corruptions and bribe and all kind of, malified intentions. Now, having said that, all the court orders are all contradictory. It is a puzzle. Like Indira Sahani, they have clearly stated. And when you said in your own terms, in Latin judiciary terms, it is obiter dicta. That means it is advisory, not binding on the government.
Yes, yes.
Similarly, Preeti Srivastava came and you again said that the merit should be there. Then Pradeep Jain case came, and Pradeep Jain also you have clearly stated that there should not be any reservations in the super specialty. And what is super specialty? There is one position, 2 positions, 3 positions, something like that as available in the super specialty level. How many Dalits you are going to empower? I am not against the Dalit, or for an example, if somebody from the general caste come, they will make the difference and they are making difference. I am not saying that.
All right.
That means that the court is, and in July only, 2013, July, Faculty Aims Association went to the Supreme Court and they said that please decide that the faculty should be, recruited from which background. Because we have one post in, for example, in super specialty subject, and there if you reserve it, then you may not find a candidate of the same background which you are requiring from the reservation background. So the post is lying vacant, and it is a disservice to the very Dalits who are seeking treatment in India. I mean, the other people, they can go outside also.
Yes.
The other thing
so, he's, of course, Dr. Rath is also talking about what you were saying, that, this reservation at the end, not at the crux level.
There are a couple of things I just want to mention. One is that in this Supreme Court case, as at this order, basically starts off on reservation for domicile, and it's a peculiar case of Andhra Pradesh, which in 1974 got this, the special order with the constitutional amendment that allows them to maintain all the seats for people within the unified state of Andhra Pradesh. And even when the 2 states were made, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, this provision was retained.
Yes.
Now the question is that in super speciality, which all the states don't have, then what do students from other states do? Because the normal practice is 50% you keep for your domicile category students, and the rest is from all India thing. So that is where the question arises. And as Dr. Rath mentioned rightly, the Supreme Court has not, questioned the constitutional validity of that particular provision, because that was not
the occasion has not come there.
That's not the issue before the court. So that's one. It is actually as part of that that the court has sort of reiterated that it's time that you look at reservations in super speciality.
Yes.
If you actually go back and look at the 2006 Act, when reservations are extended to OBCs in central education institutions, that particular Act, you will notice that there is a clause there that says very clearly that super specialities would be kept out as specified by government. Of course, that's where the catch is.
But that is not an order. It is again an obiter dicta.
It is part of the Act.
Mr. Dayal, you'd like to add? Yes, Mr. Dayal.
I think the issue is it's quite obvious that anybody who has done his MS or MD has a certain amount of brains. All of them are equal. So to presume that one seat will be blocked, how will it be blocked? Somebody is going to qualify. And if it's a reserve seat, a brilliant Dalit is going to qualify as opposed to a brilliant upper caste. So then I see no contradiction. In fact, if there were a contradiction, the Youth for Equality movement would be composed as much of Dalits as of anybody else. The composition of this movement itself shows a bias, referring to the sons of soil. The same principle then. Because it's again, why are the people agitating there across community lines? Because they think that if there's a super specialty and the net is nationwide, it's like some of the prime colleges in Delhi, St. Stephen's, LSR, Miranda. Children come from all over the country. And the poor Delhi chaps, even if they got 93.8%, fail because our friend from Tamil Nadu has got 99.2%. And he comes in. So in a super specialty area, the casting net is wider. If you want to develop your own state, you have to do that. I mean, I again posed the question of money. You can go to Johns Hopkins and do your super specialty. There's no bar, barring the minor fact that if you do not get a scholarship, Papa has to foot the bill. Otherwise, you can all go there. There is no untouchability abroad, and therefore there's no need for reservation. But yet, even in the US, even elsewhere, the blacks, the Hispanics do get equal opportunity. They have laws governing
but
that.
Mr. Dayal, equal opportunity has this all things being equal. The problem here is that all things, and that is why we keep saying that you should go back to...
There is no small print which says, because of the reservation, we are going to take zero intelligence people and make them into...
Nobody's making that argument at all.
No one's saying that.
Nobody's making that
argument.
argument.
Is that. Also, the implication is... No. I am questioning... See, I'm not a candidate. I am questioning the morality of the premise that this reservation rules out brilliance. It does not. It does limit opportunity for somebody else. But then so does any test. For one seat, 10 people are competing. But let's say all of them are upper caste. Only one will get it. The others have heartburn. They will think this man's uncle is the minister's cousin. They will always find something. Why did this man get it and why I didn't get it? There's always that.
We have a problem here. I mean, when we talk about, affirmative actions, or, we generally mean it reservations. The Constituent Assembly never clarified what exactly affirmative actions is. That is why the politicians and the votary of reservations and the anti-reservationists also, they normally resort to reservations only. There is nothing more than the reservations in the, there is no clear definitions.
No, it was quite deliberately that there was no clear definition either of core protection.
That is where
that wanted to keep things as directives.
That is where the affirmative, first you have to accept that there is no clear affirmative actions definitions in India. Only in India. Rest of the country they have. In United States they don't have it. Reservations, but they have widespread affirmative actions. That means the other thing is the real culprit is here is court. The court is making it so much.
Can I intervene at this junction, please?
Yes.
For a moment, please.
Mr. Prasad, yes. I'm running short of time, so let's keep it short. Yes.
Yeah. The world over, judiciary functions on the basic principle of evidence. That if there is no evidence, then you cannot be convicted. Is there any scientific evidence, is there any data which shows that Dalits who used quota to enter super specialty courses failed to deliver or became bad doctors? If there is no evidence, then how can any judicial system condemn them, saying that they lack merit?
I think the whole movement is on a very simple principle. You have got it, I haven't got it, therefore I'm angry. I see no logic in it on terms of science or data.
Mr. Prasad mentioned about, 5 or 6 names. He said these are all great doctors, they went abroad and they're super specialists. My point, I come back to my original point. Why should I rest on just 5 or 6 numbers? Why are we not talking about creating the conditions where those 5 are actually 50, 500, 5,000?
Also,
and then
not instead of. It should be also.
But
do that and do this.
But the problem is that we only talk about reservations at higher education, at super specialty.
In this TV studio, perhaps. But on the grassroots, in terms of advocacy, in terms of movement, the basic
Mr.
movement
Dayal,
is to give to the primary child equal opportunity.
Mr. Dayal,
let
just
me
one
add
final-
one thing. Another thing that what Mr. Bhan was saying is there is no evidence against that there is dysfunctionality because of the reservations. But let me add, every judgment there are thousands of judgment. You go with every judgment, and at every judgment the judges are against reservations in their observations. But those are all obiter dicta. When the judgment comes, when the order comes, they give it political tinge. Like for the 2013 judgment, they said that no, we cannot ignore merit. But when they say they give the judgment, that is why the judicial modulating all the problem. They are inviting
All right,
problems.
this is of course a debate which
People
will
like me
continue.
have
It's been
also
going on
analyzed
for years.
judgments
Yes.
and reached a conclusion
Yes.
that the judgments also reflect the caste and class origins of courts historically. I'm not saying of this bench, but historically,
All right.
judgments
This
have
particular
reflected.
case as such, of course, is going to be continuing as well, like he was, of course, pointing out as well. We do know on the 4th of November, there's another one that's going to happen. And I'm sure this debate will continue. For all you know, we'll have you again in studio debating that as well. But for the moment, I'm very sorry. We're running short of time. Mr. Prasad, thanks so much. And of course, here in the studio as well, our guests, thank you so much for joining us. The Big Picture will be back tomorrow with another topic. Do stay with us on Rajya Sabha TV.